Players to buy and avoid in game week 21. Stick with me and I'll take you through my list. Now, I've mentioned this guy on pretty much all of the videos that I've made on this topic, but for me it's just a simple transfer in and don't worry about it, and that is Sven Botman from Newcastle. You can see there I've actually got the predicted points from the Draft Hound website, some friends of mine who've kindly let me use their service for free, and you can see there his predicted points for the next 5 fixtures, and they're pretty good. Obviously the Liverpool game mixed in there is probably the toughest of the lot, but I would see quite easily 3 or 4 clean sheets based on the Newcastle defensive record, and for 4.5 million I think he's the best defender for the price, and he's also the cheapest one that actually starts for Newcastle, who are obviously the best defence in the league. So for me, Sven Botman is absolutely a shoe-in for your team. This last guy has probably evaded pretty much all of our teams so far because we're all probably a little bit scared of his incoming FA ban for the illegal bets that he placed. But as far as I can see, I think they were suggesting that the investigations would begin at the start of January, and I think his ban was expected to happen then. We're at the middle of January now, still no news on when it's going to happen. So I think it's fair that you could probably punt on Ivan Toney for at least a month or so while these investigations go on. And currently he's on absolute rocket form. The guy scored in pretty much all of the fixtures he's played in post the World Cup. He's the 3rd highest scoring striker in FPL. Absolutely nailed for Brentford, takes all the penalties. Relatively low ownership as well, with only 12% owned in the top 100k. I think those fixtures are really good going forwards as well. Certainly he seems to be pretty fixture proof, so I think against the likes of Man United and Arsenal we could quite easily nick a goal, and then Leeds, Southampton and Palace look pretty easy defensively as well, so you could see Toney scoring easily 3 or 4 goals during those games, and at 0.75 expected returns per 90, 4 goals in his last 4. Yeah, ridiculous form, and I think he's a really great option for your team. I know we didn't bring him in on wildcard, but I don't foresee that as a reason not to go for him now. Now this guy hasn't got off to the best of starts for Liverpool. I think he's played 2 or 3 games now without a return, but his record for PSV and in the World Cup is absolutely off the chain, and you can see why Liverpool bought him. His ownership at the moment is obviously ridiculously low. It's Cody Gakpo, those 2 rhymed sort of accidentally there. I think with the injuries that Liverpool have across their front line, I think Firmino is injured, Darwin Núñez is out for a few weeks, no Jota, no Diaz. I think Gakpo's got a really good run of fixtures and expected minutes. Obviously the data that we have to go on for Liverpool is a tiny pool, but what we do have to go on is 14 Eredivisie starts for PSV, and he scored 9 goals and got 12 assists in those games, which is just an absolutely awesome record. Now obviously there's going to be a Premier League tax applied to those, so you can expect those returns on average to drop in the Premier League. I think they already have a little bit, but I think with the record that he's got for PSV, he just can't be ignored. And I think at 8 million, if you're really looking to chase, I think he's potentially a really good option. And we saw in the World Cup as well how quickly he integrated with that Dutch team in a different high pressure scenario, on a bigger stage than you could argue PSV plays on. 3 goals in 5 games in the World Cup. And I'd say that's good enough data as well to go on to suggest that he only needs a few games for Liverpool to start getting amongst the goals. So Cody Gakpo is definitely a yes from me. And my next player is one that I absolutely mentioned last week as well, and I don't think the appeal has gone away at all, and that's Mitoma from Brighton. He now sits at 4.9 million. By the time you watch this, I expect he's probably gone up in price, and that 1.1% ownership has grown quite a lot. But from my perspective, watched him during the World Cup for Japan playing at left back. Didn't get amongst the attacking returns as much as I thought he should have done, purely because he was playing at left back, but he looks like a really exciting player. He started pretty much all of the last 6 or 7 Premier League games for Brighton. He's got 5 returns in those games as well, which is really, really good. 1.1% ownership, as I mentioned, so it's ridiculously low. I think he's a really nice differential. He's got 4 good fixtures coming up, Leicester, Bournemouth, Palace and Fulham. They're excellent fixtures, and as I say, I've got those Draft Hound expected points there, but in my opinion, because the data set for him is so low, I think he's going to do better than that. Trossard, I think we've all seen the news with him. The manager is straight away looking for a sale on him this January. Mitoma plays in Trossard's position, so in my opinion, Mitoma is now first choice for that position, and it's his place to lose. So I think we can consider him to be absolutely nailed for Brighton. And as I say, I think he's a really great option for your fantasy team. Moving on to a few players that I think you should either sell or just completely avoid picking. First up is Kepa. For one, I was one of them that bought him in, thought 4.5 million for a Chelsea goalkeeper, what could go wrong? And it seems absolutely everything. Don't think he's had a clean sheet since he's been in my team, and Chelsea just look completely off the boil at the moment. They're signing all kinds of players from left, right and centre, don't seem to have any strategy about it. I think they're only going to continue the form of poor defensive games, to be honest. I think for Kepa's price as well, and price around him, I think there are many better alternatives. Apologies for the typo there, but we've got Pope, Ward, Raya, Ederson, all better in my opinion than Kepa. They either make more saves or get more clean sheets. So whilst I don't think it should be a priority to get rid of your goalkeeper, especially if you had Ward on the bench, I definitely think if you're thinking of bringing him in or you have a transfer spare to get rid of him, you should absolutely be looking at that. And one of the reasons I did bring him in as well is because he had a really good saves record before the World Cup, but that seems to have dried off now. I think he was averaging around 4 saves per start before the World Cup. So even if Chelsea didn't keep a clean sheet, he'd have the saves bonus as backup. But he's not been getting anywhere near that post the World Cup, making 1 or 2 saves per game maximum, and he's actually been at fault for some of the goals as well. So I think if it continues, his starting spot could be a risk. And to be honest, with the way Chelsea is spending money, it could well be in the market for another goalkeeper as well. You just don't know with Chelsea at the moment. So I think for that reason, Kepa is definitely a sell or an avoid for me. Now, it seems a bit weird saying you should avoid a player that scored in his last fixture, but for me, Bruno Fernandes as a constant this season has just been an avoid. I've not really been interested in him, especially as a Man United fan, and seeing him playing in this new position, I just don't fancy him. I think he's playing too deep. He's not on penalties anymore. Rashford took the last penalty, although there may have been a bit of an argument that he's taken that to keep the goal scoring record up. I think ever since Bruno Fernandes missed a penalty against Villa, I don't think he's taken another one for United. Might be wrong, and you can correct me, but yeah, in my opinion, he's not on the penalties anymore, and that was one of the selling points, especially now he's playing in that much deeper position. And we can see, even though he scored in game week 20, he's only got 3 goals and 3 assists in the Premier League so far, and I just don't think that's good enough for someone that's 9.8 million. Man United got a really nice fixture run there, but I think until we see him either playing in a new position or really upping those numbers, I'd still want to avoid Bruno. And even though he did score in 20, Man United fan who watched the game, I think Rashford was offside and interfered with play. So that goal shouldn't have really counted. So I think owners can count themselves a bit fortunate that one counted. But yeah, you take what you can get in FPL, I guess. But for me, I've not seen enough from Bruno this season to make him a viable pick. Final one on my list then is just the Man City defence as an entirety. I've personally kept Cancelo in my team because I backed him to at least play one of the 2 games in the double, and I just had bigger fires to put out in my team. But as a whole, I think the Man City defence is just in chaos at the moment. We don't know who's going to play and when and what position. They're not keeping clean sheets. As I said, no one's a guaranteed starter. Cancelo, obviously last season we had the attack and returns to fall back on, but this season he's just not getting anything, and I don't fancy him to start in the second double of 20 and also in game week 21. So I think Man City defence as an entirety is an avoid. And as well, something I've noticed, they've kept 1 clean sheet in their last 8 games, which is definitely not the defensive record of a team you should be selecting players from. So for that reason, Man City defence is a no-go for me. And that concludes the video. As you can see, I've done a little revamp of my FPL graphics, even had a little ticker on the bottom left corner. Spent a bit of work while I've been on holiday here in Bali doing some graphics. I hope you enjoy it and either agree or disagree with my picks. That's what the game's all about at the end of the day. I'm not going to be offended if you disagree with some of those players that I've talked about there. If the game had everyone with the same opinion, it would be boring. So I'm happy to hear your thoughts in the comments about what you think of those players and any others you want to add to that list as well. Like I said, if you appreciate the new graphics, like the video and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. We've got plenty more FPL content coming your way. And as well as that, we've got a Discord server now. So if you'd like to join that, chat FPL with like-minded people, you can find the link in the description below. Until the next video, I'll see you later.